The alien observation room. The research vessel Zereth Prime drifted silently in the cold darkness of space. Inside the ship, a long, bright room was filled with strange glowing panels and soft humming machines. This was the alien observation room, where creatures from across the galaxy were studied today. Every alien in the room was focused on one subject, a human male, sitting calmly inside a transparent containment field. His name was not known to them, but his kind was rare. Most of the crew had never seen a human before. They had only heard stories of strange strength, unusual endurance, and odd habits. Commander Vera, the lead alien scientist, stood closest to the glass. Her silver eyes reflected the scanning lights as she studied the human's body. The scanners moved slowly from head to toe, producing a three-dimensional hologram of him. At first, everything seemed normal by alien standards. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, internal organs, muscle structure, all similar to other bipeds they had captured. But then the hologram showed something unexpected. Between the human's legs, there was a long snake-like shadow. It moved slightly, making some of the alien assistants gasp. "What is that?" One of the junior scientists whispered. "It appears alive," another answered nervously. Vera adjusted the controls and zoomed in. The strange shape was connected inside the human's body. It didn't match any organ in their biological databases. The crew exchanged worried glances. Some of them stepped back, as if the image alone could be dangerous. The ship's captain, tall and covered in dark metallic armor, stepped forward. "Is it a parasite?" he demanded. "No data confirms that," Vera replied carefully. "But it's moving," one assistant argued. "Yes," Vera admitted. "It is moving." Deliberately, the captain narrowed his eyes. "If it's alive, it may be hostile. Remove it for examination," he ordered. Vera hesitated, her mind torn between obeying orders and protecting the specimen for study. The human sat there quietly, his lips curled into a faint smile as if he understood what they were saying. But the translation devices couldn't fully interpret his thoughts. He tilted his head slightly, watching their confusion with calm amusement. Every few seconds, the snake seemed to shift again. The aliens reacted with growing unease. Some whispered theories. Maybe it was a weapon hidden in his body. Maybe it was a symbiotic creature feeding off him. Others thought it might be a defense mechanism that could attack without warning. Vera, however, felt something different: curiosity. She had studied hundreds of alien species, but this was unique. She stepped closer to the containment field. "Human," she said slowly. "What is that within you?" The man chuckled softly. His voice carried a tone they couldn't decode, somewhere between amusement and mischief. He didn't answer directly, only saying, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." The crew's unease turned into quiet. Panic. One alien operator tapped at his console and whispered, "The scans show changes in structure depending on temperature and mood." The captain repeated sharply, "Yes, Captain," the operator stammered. The captain's eyes narrowed further. He turned to Vera. "This is not normal biology. You will conduct a full deep tissue scan immediately," Vera ordered the scanning arms to extend into the containment field. The human leaned back, crossing his arms. The scanning light swept across him slowly. Each pass revealed more detail, but also more mystery. The snake appeared to be part of him, not a separate creature. Yet its movements seemed independent. It pulsed, shifted, and twitched in ways the aliens couldn't explain. One assistant's skin turned pale blue, a sign of extreme discomfort among their species. "Record everything," Vera said firmly. The human finally spoke again. "You're wasting your time," he said with a grin. "Why?" Vera asked. "Because you'll never understand unless you think like a human," he replied. The words were simple, but they only deepened the mystery. Vera's mind raced. Was he hiding something dangerous, or was this just part of human nature? The captain didn't like the uncertainty. "Prepare containment protocols," he ordered. No alien is to approach him without full protective gear. Vera nodded but kept her eyes on the human. Something about the way he sat there, calm, confident, even amused, made her believe he was in complete control. The scanners beeped one last time, showing the same strange image, a long snake-like form. Shifting slowly as if alive, the room fell into an uneasy silence. No one dared to speak. The mystery had only begun. The first misunderstanding, the observation room felt colder than before. Every alien inside could feel the strange tension in the air. The image of the snake-like shadow between the human's legs kept replaying on the holographic screen. The crew didn't know if they were looking at a living parasite, a hidden weapon, or something even more dangerous. And in their uncertainty, fear began to grow. Commander Vera stood in front of the containment field, studying the human carefully. He seemed so relaxed, as if he were enjoying their confusion. This behavior unsettled the crew even more. "Humans are unpredictable," one assistant whispered nervously. "Perhaps this is their way of showing dominance," another replied. Their words were quiet, but the human's eyes seemed to follow every movement of their lips. It was as if he could read their thoughts. The captain entered the room again, his heavy armor clanking with each step. "What have you discovered?" he demanded. Vera hesitated. "It moves like an independent creature, but it is connected to him internally," she explained. "No other species we know has such a structure." The captain's voice hardened. "Then it must be a biological weapon. We cannot take risks." A ripple of fear spread through the assistants. The captain's theory was dangerous. If he declared the human a threat, they might perform an extraction by force. Vera, however, wanted to understand before making such a choice. Her curiosity overpowered her caution. She ordered a different type of scan, one that focused on nerve responses. The machines came to life, surrounding the containment cell with a faint green light. The human watched the process with a smirk. "More scans?" he said softly. "You're just making this more embarrassing for yourselves." The translator turned his words into alien speech, but the tone was lost. Instead of understanding his humor, the aliens interpreted his remark as a challenge. Gasps filled the room. Some of the crew took a step back. "He is taunting us," one alien hissed. "He knows the creature will harm us if we try to approach," another added. The scans began to produce live readings on the display. They could see the snake reacting to certain environmental changes, temperature shifts, sound frequencies, even the human's own heartbeat. Every reaction made the alien scientists lean in closer. But the human's smirk widened. He shifted slightly in his seat, and the shadow between his legs moved in a way that made one assistant drop their tools. "It's aware of us," the assistant stammered. Vera frowned, not sure if she was watching biology or psychology. The captain's patience ran thin. "Contain him in the isolation chamber," he ordered, "until we understand this thing. No one goes near him without my permission." 2 armored guards approached the cell, their weapons glowing faintly. The human didn't move. He simply raised an eyebrow. "Isolation? That sounds lonely," he said. The translator repeated his words in the alien tongue, but it carried no emotion. To the crew, it sounded like a cold threat. The guards hesitated for a moment. Vera stepped forward quickly. "Captain, I request permission to examine him personally before we move him," she said. The captain narrowed his eyes. "Why risk yourself?" "Because," Vera replied, "if this is a weapon, we need to know how it works before it is removed." The captain considered her words, then nodded reluctantly. "You have 1 cycle, Commander. If you fail, I will order the extraction." The human watched this exchange with quiet interest. Vera stepped into the containment chamber, the door sealing behind her with a hiss. The air felt warmer here. Closer to the human, she could hear his steady breathing, see the faint glint in his eyes. "So," she said carefully, "tell me about it." He tilted his head. "About what?" he asked. "You know what," Vera replied, her voice calm but firm. The human chuckled. "That's not something I can explain with your scanners," he said. Then explain it with words, she insisted. Words, he repeated slowly, as if tasting the idea. Well, in my world, it's not a weapon, and it's not a parasite, it's part of being a man. The translator worked hard to interpret his sentence, but the alien language had no word for man in the human sense. The closest it could translate was combat-ready male organism. The moment the crew outside heard it, panic spread. He admits it is for combat. Someone shouted. Vera's eyes widened. This was a disaster inside the chamber. The human sighed. See? This is why I didn't bother explaining, he said. Vera realized the misunderstanding was growing too large to control. If she didn't act quickly, the captain might see this as proof of danger. And if that happened, the human might not live to see another cycle. She needed a new plan, and she needed it fast. The tension in the observation room rose higher than ever. Outside, the captain began preparing his next order. Inside, Vera stared at the human, wondering if this strange mystery could end without bloodshed. The snake shifted again, and the entire crew froze in fear. The misunderstanding had just reached a dangerous new level. The failed examination, the captain's voice echoed through the observation room like a cold blade. Begin the invasive scan, he ordered. No one dared to argue. The misunderstanding from earlier had already made the crew see the human as a dangerous biological puzzle. Now the captain wanted answers, and he wanted them fast. Vera stood inside the containment chamber, her heart racing. She had convinced the captain to let her lead the next stage, but she knew this could easily go wrong. The human sat there with that same calm, almost playful look in his eyes. You know, he said, back home you'd have to at least buy Emmy dinner first. The translator struggled to process his words. When it finally spoke, it came out as, you must provide nutritional tribute before physical contact. The aliens outside stiffened. One assistant whispered, it demands a ritual offering before we can touch it. Another replied, that's terrifying. Vera ignored the chatter and activated the scanning arm. A long, flexible device descended from the ceiling, glowing faintly blue. It was designed to pass harmless energy through flesh and bone, to create a perfect internal map. The human didn't flinch. The device began its sweep, humming softly. At first, the scan showed normal human muscle and tissue, but when it reached the lower section of his body, the readings went wild. Lights flickered on the control panels, alarms beeped. The shape between his legs pulsed rapidly. The scanner detected increased blood flow and muscle activity. What's happening? One alien shouted. It's reacting to the scan, another replied. Outside the chamber, the crew exchanged worried glances. Inside, the human smirked. Careful, that thing's ticklish, he said. The translator rendered his words as, warning, the creature is sensitive to provocation. Gasps filled the observation room. The captain's voice came through the comms. Restrain it immediately, he barked. Vera shook her head. No, Captain, if we restrain him, it may trigger a defense response, she argued. Her words were meant to calm him, but they only made the crew even more nervous. Some believed she was defending a dangerous organism. Out of misplaced sympathy, the scanner's second pass began. The human shifted slightly, his expression caught between amusement and mild discomfort. Do you really have to keep poking around? He asked. Vera's eyes narrowed. We need to know what it is, she said. Some mysteries are better left unsolved, he replied with a grin. The translator didn't know the phrase, better left unsolved. Instead it produced, if you discover its full nature, it will be your doom. Half the assistants backed away from their stations instantly. The captain's patience was thinning fast. Commander, either you bring me results or I take over, he growled. Vera glanced at the human, sensing that pushing further might escalate things. She decided to try a non-invasive approach. She placed the scanner aside and reached for a small diagnostic sphere. It floated in the air, sending harmless pulses to measure nervous system reactions. The human tilted his head curiously. What's this one do? He asked. It reads your neural activity, Vera explained. Oh, so it's going to find out what I'm thinking? He smirked. The translator turned this into, it will uncover the creature's hidden intentions. Outside, more aliens began muttering nervously. The sphere hovered closer to the human. The readings appeared on the monitors, showing strange fluctuations. It seemed that whenever he looked at Vera, certain neural pathways became more active. The captain noticed it immediately. Why is it reacting more to you than to the others? He demanded. Vera didn't answer. The human just grinned and said, maybe I like the way she looks. The translator produced. The creature approves of the female commander for unknown purposes. This only deepened the mystery. Suddenly, the scanner's arm malfunctioned. It jerked forward, brushing against the human's leg. The snake reacted instantly, its movement visible even through his clothing. The crew outside panicked, alarms blaring. One alien shouted, it's preparing to strike. Another yelled, shut the chamber now. The captain slammed the control, sealing the containment cell. The lights inside turned red, casting long shadows over the human's amused face. Vera turned to him. Why are you doing this? She asked quietly. Doing what? He replied innocently. Making them think it's alive, she pressed. He leaned back in his chair. Because it's more fun this way, he said. The translator actually managed to get that one right. Outside, the crew stared in disbelief. Was this human playing with them the whole time? The examination ended in chaos. The scanner logs were useless, full of corrupted readings. The captain stormed out. Furious, Vera remained in the chamber, staring at the human. She realized something important. The snake might not be dangerous at all, but the human's ability to control the situation through mystery. Now that was dangerous, and deep down, she suspected he knew exactly what he was doing. The cultural clash, the failed examination, had left the observation room in complete confusion. No one on the Zereth Prime could agree on what the snake truly was. Some still believed it was a deadly parasite ready to strike at any moment. Others were convinced it was a symbiotic life form with unknown powers. And a few whispered the most outrageous theory yet, that it was a tool for human reproduction. This last theory caused even more panic than the idea of a weapon. The captain called an emergency meeting in the central chamber. Every senior officer and science specialist attended. On the large holographic display, an image of the human's anatomy hovered in midair. The snake-like structure was highlighted in red. This, the captain began, his voice stern, is either the greatest biological weapon we have encountered, or a device for purposes we cannot yet understand. The crew murmured nervously. One officer raised a hand. Captain, the neural scans showed it becomes more active when the human looks at Commander Vera. The room went silent. All eyes turned to her. Vera kept her composure, but she could feel the tension like a weight pressing down. Correlation does not mean causation, she said, but her words did little to calm the growing suspicion. The captain's gaze was sharp. Then you will question him directly, he ordered. Vera nodded reluctantly. She knew the translator was part of the problem, twisting harmless human phrases into ominous warnings. But refusing the order would only make things worse. Back in the containment chamber, the human was waiting. He leaned casually against the wall, arms crossed, a faint smirk on his lips. Back for more questions? He asked. Yes, Vera replied. The crew wants answers. I bet they do, he chuckled. She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. They believe this part of you may be used for reproduction, she said slowly. The human laughed out loud. Well, they're not wrong, he said. The translator processed his words for a long moment before announcing, confirmed creature deploys snake to insert genetic material into compatible hosts. The entire observation room outside erupted into chaos. Some aliens jumped back from the monitors as if the image might leap out at them. Others began shouting about containment failure and interspecies contamination. One young officer fainted outright. The The captain slammed a hand on the console. Silence. Let her continue. He barked. Vera exhaled slowly. You see what you've done? She whispered to the human. I told you they wouldn't believe me unless I told them the truth, he said with a grin. That's not the truth. They have no concept of human reproduction. She countered. He shrugged. Then maybe. This is their biology lesson. The crew outside began making wild guesses. One suggested that the human species might plant offspring in enemy bodies as a form of invasion. Another claimed the snake might be able to infect other species with mind control larvae. These theories spread like wildfire. Within minutes, the entire ship was buzzing with rumors. Every alien now kept their distance from the containment chamber. Some even refused to walk past it. Vera realized the cultural gap between them and the human was too wide to bridge in one conversation. Still, she pressed on. If it's not dangerous, explain its purpose in a way they can understand, she insisted. The human thought for a moment. All right, he said slowly. It's for making new humans. The translator took this and announced, it is a device that manufactures warriors in its own image. The room outside erupted again. They breed soldiers. One alien shouted, no wonder they're so dangerous. Another replied. Vera closed her eyes briefly, resisting the urge to yell at the translation system. She turned back to the human. They think your species creates an army through this process, she said quietly. He smirked. Well, in a way. He began. She held up a hand. Do not finish that sentence, she warned. But the damage was already done. Rumors were now a storm. And she couldn't stop it. The captain's voice came over the comms. Commander Vera, you are to remain with the specimen at all times until we understand this. Reproduction weapon. The human raised an eyebrow. Specimen? Ouch, he said. The translator announced. The creature is insulted by your ignorance, Vera sighed, knowing that every word made things worse. As the crew scrambled to create new security measures, Vera and the human stood inside the containment chamber, locked in a strange silence. The misunderstanding had reached a point where the truth might never be accepted. And yet, she noticed something unsettling. The more the aliens feared the human, the more control he seemed to have. And from the sly look in his eyes, she suspected he knew exactly how to use it. Asterisk, the ship-wide panic. The misunderstanding had grown into something far bigger than Vera had feared. By the next ship cycle, the rumor about the human's reproduction weapon had spread to every deck of the Zerith Prime, from the engine room to the flight bridge. Crew members whispered stories about the snake-like organ. Each retelling made it sound more dangerous. Some said it could fire venom that controlled minds. Others claimed it could burrow into a victim and take over their body. A few even believed it was a coiled alien serpent that lived inside him, waiting to escape. Security protocols changed overnight. Every corridor near the containment chamber now had armed guards. Warning signs in bright red alien script glowed on the walls. Biohazard, keep away. Crew members walking past the area moved quickly, heads down, avoiding eye contact with the human inside. Even maintenance drones were rerouted to avoid the chamber. The human noticed all of this and seemed amused. Inside the observation room, Vera reviewed the latest reports. She couldn't believe the level of paranoia spreading through the ship. According to one log, a crew member had refused to eat after being assigned near the human sector. Another had filed a formal request for a transfer to another vessel. It was getting out of control. The captain entered, his voice sharp. The containment area is now restricted. No one enters without my direct order. He announced, Commander Vera, you will remain as primary contact with the specimen. Vera nodded reluctantly. She understood the captain didn't trust anyone else near the human, but she also knew this level of isolation only made the rumors stronger. Meanwhile, the human sat in his cell, leaning back on the bench. When Vera approached, he greeted her with that same infuriating smirk. So, I hear on the talk of the ship, he said. That's one way to describe it, she replied. They think I'm dangerous, he continued. They're not entirely wrong, she muttered under her breath. Oh, come on, he grinned. I'm harmless. Unless provoked, the translator turned this into. The creature warns it will attack if challenged, Vera sighed, feeling the situation slide even further out of her control. Elsewhere on the ship, panic reached a new level in the mess hall. Groups of aliens gathered, swapping exaggerated tales. One engineer claimed the human snake could sense fear. A medic swore she had seen it move even when the human was unconscious. A navigator insisted that the creature was slowly growing, feeding off the ship's atmosphere. These wild stories traveled faster than official reports. By the time they reached the lower decks, some crew members believed the human could reproduce an entire army in hours. Back in the captain's quarters, heated discussions took place. A few senior officers pushed for immediate neutralization of the threat. Others argued that the human's biology could be the key to new military technology. The captain listened, his expression unreadable. Finally, he decided to wait. Vera's next report would determine the human's fate in the containment chamber. Vera confronted the human. You're enjoying this, aren't you? She asked. He shrugged. I'm just sitting here, minding my own business. You're letting them believe something that isn't true, she pressed. Isn't it? He asked with a raised eyebrow. She frowned. Not in the way they think. He leaned forward. Then maybe you should correct them. You know they won't believe me, she said. Exactly, he replied with a grin. The translator rendered his words as, the creature admits the deception cannot be undone. An alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Vera's wrist device lit up with a security alert. Unauthorized access detected containment sector. She and the human looked toward the sealed door as heavy footsteps echoed in the corridor. Moments later, 2 junior crew members burst in, armed with stun rifles. Their hands trembled, eyes wide with fear. Stay back. One shouted, We're here to secure the creature before it escapes, the other stammered. Vera stepped in front of the human. No one authorized this, she snapped. The guards exchanged nervous glances. The crew is scared, one admitted. They think it might attack soon. The human leaned to the side. Just enough for them to catch a glimpse of his infamous weapon under the fabric of his clothing. The younger guard let out a sharp gasp and stepped back so quickly he nearly tripped. Vera turned to the human. Stop provoking them, she warned, but he only smiled. Fear is a powerful shield, he said. The translator announced. The creature says fear will protect it from harm, Vera realized with a sinking feeling. But he might be right. The guards backed out slowly, sealing the door again. Outside, their exaggerated account of the encounter spread within minutes. By the end of the cycle, half the ship believed the snake had tried to hypnotize them. The other half believed it had spoken directly into their minds. The truth was already beyond saving. And the human sat calmly in his cell, watching it all unfold like a game. Asterisk, the truth comes out. The panic on the Zerith Prime had reached its peak. Whole sections of the ship now avoided even walking past the containment sector. Security patrols were doubled, and whispers of a breeding weapon had become the ship's biggest topic. Vera knew it couldn't go on like this. The fear was making the crew unstable, and sooner or later, the captain would decide to eliminate the human. Just to restore order, she walked into the containment chamber, that cycle with a different purpose. Her steps were firm, her face unreadable. The human sat cross-legged on the bench, leaning against the wall like he didn't have a care in the world. You look serious today, he said with a faint grin. I am, she replied. She glanced at the corner of the room where the surveillance node was mounted. With a quick motion, she deactivated it. The tiny red light went dark, leaving them alone without the crew listening in. The human tilted his head. Oh? Private conversation? I'm flattered, he teased. Vera ignored the remark. I want the truth, she said firmly. He chuckled. I've been telling you the truth. Your translator just makes it sound scarier. No, she said sharply. I want the truth in your words, without the games, without the jokes. For a moment, he just looked at her. His expression shifted, less playful now, more thoughtful. All right, he said quietly. You're not going to like how boring it is, he explained, in slow, simple terms, what the snake truly was. That it wasn't a weapon, not a parasite, not some independent creature, just a part of male human anatomy, a part that allowed his species to reproduce, a part that could change in size, shape, and function depending on biology and emotional state, a part so ordinary to humans that they barely thought about it. Vera listened carefully, her mind processing each word. It was so simple, so harmless, yet in the context of alien understanding, it made perfect sense why her crew saw it as terrifying to them. No species they knew had a biological structure that could transform like that, and the idea of a reproductive organ being concealed inside the body seemed unnatural. She realized the entire crisis was built on one enormous cultural misunderstanding. The human watched her reaction closely. You believe me now? He asked. Yes, she said slowly. And I wish you had told me sooner. I tried, he smirked. You just have a ship full of terrible translators. Her lips tightened. This information could clear the fear, she said. Or, he interrupted, you could keep it quiet and let them stay afraid of me. Vera frowned. Why would I do that? Because, he said calmly, fear is keeping me alive. She didn't answer right away. He leaned forward. If you tell the captain it's harmless, I become just another prisoner, one they might dissect for study or execute if they get bored. She hated to admit it, but he was right. The fear made the crew cautious, and caution meant no one dared to harm him. You're asking me to lie, she said at last. I'm asking you to keep me alive, he replied. Vera felt the weight of the choice pressing on her. She could end the panic and restore order, but it might mean sacrificing him, or she could protect him by keeping the myth alive. Both options carried risk. Her mind raced through the possibilities. The comm panel on the wall buzzed suddenly. It was the captain's voice. Commander. Vera, I want your final report now. She froze for a moment. Her eyes met the human's. He didn't speak, but his expression said everything. Choose carefully. Vera reactivated the surveillance node. The red light blinked back to life. She stepped back from the bench, her face composed and professional. Captain, she began, the scans confirm that the human's organ is an integrated biological feature. There was a pause on the other end. Is it dangerous? The captain asked. Vera hesitated, then said, it has the potential to be used for purposes we do not fully understand. Its capabilities are adaptable, the captain grunted. That is enough for me. We continue monitoring, he said. Before ending the transmission, the human leaned back, his grin returning. Nicely done, he said. She turned to leave. Don't thank me, she replied. I may have just made you the most feared creature on this ship, and the safest, he said with a wink. As she walked out, Vera realized she had crossed a line. She wasn't just studying him anymore, she was protecting him. And deep down, she wondered if she was protecting herself from what might happen if the truth ever came out. The human advantage, the captain's decision to keep the human alive, sent ripples through the entire ship. Some crew members were relieved, thinking the weapon was too dangerous to tamper with. Others were furious, believing the captain was risking the safety of everyone aboard, but no one dared to openly challenge the order. The fear around the human had become a living thing, whispered in hallways, carried in cautious glances, and the human seemed to thrive in it. Inside the containment chamber, he lounged on the bench as if it were his personal throne. Vera entered with a datapad, her expression calm but unreadable. You've officially become the ship's ghost story, she said. I prefer legend, he replied with a smirk. She set the datapad down. Legend or not, the captain is still watching for any sign of threat. He leaned forward. Then I'll give him one, he said, her brow furrowed. That's not a good idea. It's the best idea, he countered. Fear keeps people careful. Careful people don't do stupid things like trying to cut me open. That cycle, the captain summoned Vera to a high-level meeting. A few of the ship's senior officers were present, their faces grim. The holographic display lit up with a series of exaggerated incident reports, crew members claiming they had seen the human's weapon move on its own. One even claimed it had glowed in the dark. Another insisted it was trying to send telepathic messages. These reports cannot be ignored. The captain said, "They are false," Vera replied calmly. "Then explain why the crew believes them," the captain pressed. Vera kept her voice level. "Because they fear what they do not understand," the human's voice suddenly came over the comm system. It was calm, deliberate, and perfectly timed. "Captain," he said, "if you truly wish to understand, I could show you." The officer stiffened. "Show us what?" the captain asked. "You'll see," the human replied, before cutting the channel. Vera knew exactly what he was doing, feeding the legend, keeping himself untouchable, and, against her better judgment, she let it happen. Later, the captain and 2 guards came to the containment chamber. The human stood this time, his posture straight and confident. Vera stood to the side, watching carefully. He didn't make any sudden moves, just walked slowly toward the transparent barrier. "Everything you fear about me," he said, "is true. In your minds." The translator rendered it perfectly. The captain's jaw tightened. But he didn't speak. "I won't harm you," the human continued, "unless you force me to." That last part sent a visible ripple through the guards. They shifted nervously, their grips tightening on their weapons. The captain finally stepped forward. "You will remain here until I decide otherwise," he said. The human nodded slowly. "Good," he replied. "I like knowing I'm safe." The words were simple, but the tone carried a deeper meaning. "Safe from you." Vera caught it, and so did the captain. It was a subtle reminder that despite being a prisoner, the human was controlling the situation. After they left, Vera stayed behind. "You've just made yourself impossible to touch," she said quietly. "That was the point," he replied. She crossed her arms. "You realize you've turned yourself into a permanent mystery to them. Better a mystery than a corpse," he said with a grin. She hated to admit it. But he was right again. Over the next few cycles, the fear didn't fade, it grew. The human became a kind of shadow commander on the ship. Crew members avoided him, but they also gave him small concessions, extra food, warmer quarters, even better clothing, anything to keep him content. Every strange movement he made became another rumor. Every smirk was interpreted as a threat, and every rumor made the captain less likely to risk confronting him directly. Vera found herself caught between 2 worlds. On one side, she was still an officer of the Zereth Prime, bound by duty to the crew. On the other, she had become the human's silent ally, protecting him from the consequences of the truth. She didn't know when she had crossed that line, but now it was too late to turn back. One cycle. As she was leaving the containment chamber, the human called after her. "Vera," he said. She turned. "You've been good to me," he continued. "When this is over, I'll remember that." She hesitated. "And if it's never over?" she asked. He smiled faintly. "Then I guess we both just learned how to survive in enemy territory." As the door closed between them, Vera realized something chilling. The human had not just survived this entire ordeal, he had won. He had turned fear into a weapon, not by fighting, but by letting others believe what they wanted to believe. And in that way, he had done what no other prisoner ever had on the Zereth Prime. He had taken control without lifting a single weapon.